I'm Bob Samuels. I was born in Palo Alto, California. At the time the Vietnam conflict broke out, I was in between my junior and senior years of college. Traveling in Europe was the first thing I heard about it.
Allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste.
The Vietnam War spread from 1954 to 1975. During this time, there were a total of 536,000 U.S. soldiers sent to Vietnam. Over 200,000 Vietnamese soldiers and 58,000 American soldiers died during the war. But what was life like as a civilian in the United States?
Communists were bad, and there were comments about pinkos and reds, and if you really wanted to slam somebody, you'd say they were a pinko. You know, they were a communist.
In recognizing a communist, physical appearance counts for nothing. If he openly declares himself to be a communist, we take his word for it. If a person consistently reads and advocates the views expressed in a communist publication, he may be a communist. If a person supports organizations which reflect communist teachings, or organizations labeled communist by the Department of Justice, she may be a communist. If a person defends the activities of communist nations while consistently attacking the domestic and foreign policy of the United States, she may be a communist. If a person does all these things over a period of time, he must be a communist.
Bomb shelters were being built in the 1950s in backyards and stored with, months and months of canned goods and so on, so families could drop into their bomb shelter and hang out there. And they were more or less elaborate forms of bomb shelters. So there was a fear. The Cold War, definitely produced fear and anxiety in people. It was kind of a background.
Not everyone believed that we should be in Vietnam, and some people took it upon themselves to try to get us out of there.
I was working for this company I joined down in Palo Alto, and there was a company called Stanford Research Institute, which had government contracts, which rightly or wrongly people believed to be developing military agents, maybe chemical warfare. I don't know if anybody really knew, but some people must have known what was going on there. And they had a building about a block away from us. And I remember I was doing some training for some of our customers from around the country, and they flew in the night before, stayed at a motel, and I picked them up to drive to our offices. And as we drove to the offices, all of a sudden we came upon barricades, buses with police with riot shields and everything on one side of the street, and on the other side, people with long hair and bandanas wrapped around their heads and carrying signs and so forth. Some of them had blood on them where they'd been hit by police sticks. Right there was the polarization of trying to maintain law and order and these people protesting what this company was doing. Our company had no fences around it until that time, and all of a sudden they put up cyclone fences that enclosed the whole lot, and you had to go through a gate to get into the parking lot and so on. So it was kind of a loss of innocence for certainly these people that had come in from Peoria and whatnot. All of a sudden in California, and here they are in the middle of this thing looking like this, wide-eyed out of both sides. And I was about to say, holy smoke, I've never seen anything like this before.
At the same time that these people were protesting the war, the same war that they were protesting was being broadcasted on newsreels throughout the country.
Spring at home, but unmindful of clock or calendar, the Vietnam struggle goes on. A Viet Cong ambush of a U.S. Marine Rough Rider truck convoy kills one American leatherneck, wounding 4 others. Many vehicles were damaged, 2 destroyed.
I went to a talk by a war photographer, and he showed footage and so on, which was the kind of footage that would be generated for the newsreels and for television subsequently. And he told us that what you see on a newsreel is highly sanitized. I never thought about that before. He said, but you know, in World War II, there were a lot of storming the beachheads, and there would be people with, you know, there would be brains on the sand. There were people with guts that were shot out from them and lying there. There were people moaning because they were in their last breaths and could do nothing about them. None of that, all that got cut out of any newsreels and so on. And he said, you know, it's war is a lot uglier, in fact, than it's presented. It's kind of presented with a little bit of glory, and you know, we win this battle, and our soldiers are pushing the flag up at Iwo Jima and all that sort of thing. But he said about 80% or 90% of it is not fit for public consumption. It just, people couldn't handle it.
As the war came to an end, people were still not satisfied with the situation.
I think people were conflicted. They were relieved to put it behind them, to be out of there. There were a lot of people who weren't accounted for, and their families would grieve for years to come. They were, along with the relief, though, I think that sense of patriotism, and you know, a lot of people believe the U.S. is the best country in the world and so forth, which I think it's nice to feel if you live here. It's nice to feel in whatever country you're in. But they felt beaten. They were beaten. We did not come out winning that conflict, and that bothered people. So glad to be out. Didn't want to be the loser. And therefore, you know, how did we reconcile that with wanting to stop communism? We somehow got it into our heads that maybe we didn't have to stop communism right there, or we couldn't. We just throw more resources at it and waste them.
Even with Vietnam ending many years ago, life has not changed as much as many would like to think.
I think we still have some of the same polarizations. You have people whose family members are serving in Afghanistan or Iraq, and they're very much tied to supporting our troops. The difference, I think, is I'm not sure a lot of those people feel we should be there. They're just saying if we are going to be there, then let's not do what we did in Vietnam to our troops. Let's not spit on them. Let's help them get jobs. Let's help them get treatment for their emotional and physical wounds, injuries when they come back. So I think that is a reaction to Vietnam. Is more supportive.